West is known as the southernmost city in the continental United States and sits famously at the end of Highway US 1 on mile marker 0, just 90 miles from Cuba. The famous Key West Monument is a concrete replica of a sea buoy proclaiming the city's geographical status and is one of the most visited and photographed attractions on the island. Playing host to almost 500,000 cruise ship passengers per year, the best way to tour Key West's many landmarks is by the famous conch trains. Most visitors simply choose to walk the famous Duval Street, which holds many bars, restaurants, and souvenir stores along its length. Key West plays host to over 20 annual events, festivals, and parades every year, which attract even more visitors. And Duval Street becomes a parade route during several of the summer's events. Architecturally, Key West has the largest collection of wood frame structures, nearly 3,000 in a National Register of Historic Districts. Among the many traditional houses and structures to be seen, visitors can tour the former home of Pulitzer Prize-winning author Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway lived here in Key West from 1931 to 1940. As many as 66 or 7-toed polydactyl cats descended from Hemingway's original pet Snowball are in residence at the house, exempt from the local law prohibiting more than 4 domestic pets per household. During his 9-year residence, Hemingway wrote around 70% of his total output from his studio, including For Whom the Bell Tolls and Death in the Afternoon. Hemingway's regular routine was to write from 6 a.m. until noon and spend the rest of the day deep-sea fishing, or at his favorite place, the famous Sloppy Joe's Bar on Duval Street, now named Captain Tony's Saloon. Throughout the year, Key West is a favorite among visitors for its fishing, relaxed atmosphere, and unique local flavor. Located on New Providence Island, Nassau is the largest city and capital of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Originally known as Charlestown, it was burned to the ground by the Spanish in 1684, but rebuilt by the British in 1695, and given its current name in honor of King William III of England, who was from the Dutch House of Orange-Nassau. The world-famous Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island accounts for more tourist visitors than any other hotel in the city. The Bridge Suite on the 23rd floor is one of the most expensive hotel rooms in the world and has 10 rooms, a living room 1,250 square feet in size, a full kitchen, and a permanent staff of 7. The resort is the second largest employer in the Bahamas. With a staff of over 6,000 Bahamians, Atlantis is the largest employer outside of government. Atlantis is perhaps best known for its water parks and attractions. The Dig is a series of aquariums forming the world's largest open-air marine habitat. Designed to provide guests with an idea of the legendary sunken city of Atlantis, the floors in the numerous aquariums feature wreckage and debris representing the lost city. The Predator Lagoon houses sharks, stingrays, and barracuda, and features a 100-foot underwater tunnel from which visitors can view the marine environment up close. The 200 million-gallon Aquaventure Park features slides, lazy rivers, and water rapids. The Current is a mile-long lazy river ride with artificial waves to help guests float along its length. The occasional tidal surges help to liven up an otherwise relaxing experience. The Mayan Temple features 3 water slides. The Challenger slide allows 2 guests at a time to race each other to the bottom and check their times on the clocks at the end of the slide. The Abyss begins with a 50-foot near-vertical drop and propels the rider through 200 feet of twisting tubes. Christopher Columbus discovered the island of Puerto Rico in 1492 and named it San Juan Bautista in honor of St. John the Baptist. Later, the island took the name of Puerto Rico, and the capital city took on the name of San Juan. Puerto Rico became an important stronghold and port for the Spanish Empire. A network of forts and walls were built around the island, such as El Castillo San Felipe del Moro and El Castillo de San Cristobal, to defend and protect the port from European enemies. An attack by Sir Francis Drake and his fleet of 25 British warships in 1595 was repelled by the Spanish forces, and over the following 200 years, San Juan was attacked by the French, the Dutch, and on 2 further occasions by the English. In 1898, the first shot marking Puerto Rico's entry into the Spanish-American War was fired from Castillo San Cristobal against the USS Yale, beginning a day-long bombardment between the cannon batteries and U.S. Navy warships. The United States launched a successful invasion of San Juan by means of a landing on the southern coast. 6 months later, Puerto Rico became a U.S. territory under the terms of the Treaty of Paris, along with Cuba, the Philippines, and Guam. In 1917, Puerto Ricans were granted U.S. citizenship. This resulted in many Puerto Ricans being drafted into World War I and all subsequent wars with U.S. involvement. Today, Puerto Rico is described as a Commonwealth of the United States and plays host to around 5 million tourists per year, nearly a third of which are cruise ship passengers who come to experience the beach resorts, history, and the local architecture of Old San Juan. Duty-free shopping is an important part of the Puerto Rican economy, with many name-brand outlets and stores lining the narrow streets and city squares. One of the most popular attractions in Puerto Rico is the Bacardi rum plant, the largest rum distillery in the world. Casa Bacardi offers a free 45-minute tour of its facility, which produces over 100,000 gallons of rum per day. Visitors can learn about the history of the brand, the distillation process, and how to mix the perfect mojito. The world-famous bat symbol originates from a colony of fruit bats living in the barn in which the family first began distilling rum. In Spain, the bat is a symbol of good health, fortune, and family unity. And the discovery of bats in the distillery by founder Don Facundo and his wife Amalia was seen as a good omen. It has remained as the Bacardi symbol ever since. The family-owned company was first established in Cuba in 1862, but the Castro regime confiscated the factory in the 1960s, and so the family moved the operation to Cataño, across San Juan Bay from the city. Christopher Columbus sighted the island of St. Thomas in 1493 on his second voyage to the New World, and over the following 150 years, the island was used as an occasional base for Caribbean pirates. In 1663, the Danish conquered the island, establishing control through the Danish West India and Guinea Company. The United States purchased St. Thomas and the neighboring islands of St. John and St. Croix for $25 million in 1917 as part of its defense strategy, and to maintain control over the Caribbean and the Panama Canal during the First World War. Tourism and duty-free shopping are the mainstay of the island, with its many stores offering electronics, exclusive jewelry, and duty-free liquor, as well as locally produced souvenirs. St. Thomas is the only place under U.S. jurisdiction where the rule of the road is to drive on the left, in spite of the majority of American imported left-hand drive cars. The St. Peter Great House and Botanical Gardens sits on a volcanic peak 1,000 feet above Hull Bay. The Botanical Gardens contain waterfalls, tropical bird aviaries, and more than 20 varieties of orchids and 150 species of plants and fruits. The view from the top of this 11-acre former plantation is spectacular, with over 20 virgin islands and keys to admire. Nearby is Drake's Seat, used by English sailor Sir Francis Drake as a lookout. It overlooks one of St. Thomas's most frequented spots, Megan's Bay. Named by National Geographic as one of the 10 most beautiful beaches in the world, Megan's Bay, this heart-shaped beach, consists of 1 mile of gently sloping soft sand, and with the exception of a few weeks in the year when the winds shift, there are no waves or currents. Cokie Point Beach is a popular spot for both locals and tourists alike. The small rocky outcrop is home to coral formations which, along with the crystal clear water, provide some of the island's best snorkeling opportunities. Cokie Beach is also home to the Coral World Ocean Park, where visitors wishing to remain dry can observe the underwater world from the undersea observatory 15 feet from the surface. Formerly a territory within the Federation of the West Indies, the Cayman Islands chose to remain a British dependency when the Federation dissolved in 1962. Grand Cayman is the largest of the three islands, which have become a thriving offshore financial center with almost 500 banks, 800 insurance companies, and 5,000 mutual funds. A popular cruise ship destination with ships calling at the capital of Georgetown, with over 2 million visitors per year, the tourist industry is geared toward the luxury market with many high-end boutiques and stores. One of the many attractions is the Cayman Turtle Farm, the only operational turtle farm in the Caribbean. Most of the green sea turtles are raised for their meat, which reduces the consumption of wild animals, and some of the turtles are released into the wild with very good survival rates. Hell is a formation of short black limestone rocks in the northwest town of West Bay. Quite how the area came by its name is not entirely clear, but it's easy to see why it came to be so called. Visitors can buy souvenirs from the local store and even send postcards from Hell from the official Hell post office. 7 Mile Beach received the title of the Caribbean's best beach from the magazine Caribbean Travel and Life. Grand Cayman's most popular beach, it is in fact only 5.5 miles long and is home to most of the island's luxury hotels. Regardless of the island's many fine beaches and the shopping opportunities, Grand Cayman is perhaps best known as a destination for its spectacular diving and snorkeling. Some of the island's many reefs can be accessed by swimming from shore, and because Grand Cayman has no rivers, the surrounding waters are renowned for their exceptional clarity. Christopher Columbus sighted St. Martin on his second voyage to the New World and anchored at the island on November 11, 1493, the feast day of St. Martin of Tours. Columbus named the island in his honor, but never landed there, and Spain made settlement to the island a low priority. Around 200 miles east of Puerto Rico, St. Martin is the smallest inhabited sea island divided between two nations. The southern Dutch half is part of the Netherlands Antilles, and Philipsburg is one of the most popular ports of call for today's cruise ships. The best access from the cruise ship pier to town is via water taxi, which brings visitors into the heart of Philipsburg and its beaches, featuring water sports and many bars, restaurants, and tourist shops. Legend has it that the division of the island between the Dutch and French was decided by a contest. It began with a Dutchman drinking gin and a Frenchman drinking wine. When they had drunk their fill, they began walking around the island. Starting at Oyster Pond on the east coast, the Frenchman headed north, while the Dutchman headed south. And where the two met again was where the dividing line was drawn from Oyster Pond. The Dutchman stopped to sleep off the effects of the gin, however, which is why the Frenchman was able to cover more ground and claim more of the island. Though a popular story, it is in fact not historically accurate. In 1648, the French Navy was anchored offshore during the negotiation of the Treaty of Concordia, which they used to bargain for more land for themselves. After the treaty was signed, however, further conflicts saw the border change 16 times over the following 170 years, and the Dutch finally lost out with 16 square miles compared to the 21 square miles on the French side. A unique feature of one beach in particular is that it sits at the end of the runway of the Princess Juliana International Airport. Locals and tourists alike gather to watch airplanes approach the short runway, often to within 30 to 60 feet above Maho Beach. The town of Marigot on the French side was originally a fishing village and was made the capital during the reign of King Louis XVI, who built Fort St. Louis overlooking Marigot Bay. Known for its nudist beaches and French and Caribbean cuisine, the French side is also popular for its excellent duty-free shopping, designer clothing stores, and its outdoor markets. Aruba is a 21-mile-long island of the Lesser Antilles, just 15 miles off the coast of South America, and was first discovered by Amerigo Vespucci in 1499. And today, the island enjoys one of the highest standards of living in the Caribbean region. Although originally settled by Spain, Aruba has been under Dutch administration since 1636, though during the days of World War II became alternatively a British and then an American protectorate. Today, Aruba is a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and the Dutch influence is more than evident in the island's architectural influences. Until 1985, oil and petroleum processing was the dominant industry. But these days, around 3/4 of Aruban industry is centered around tourism. There are several points of interest in Aruba. The Casibiri rock formation was used by Arawak Indians who used to put their drawings on the rocks. They also visited the rocks to hear incoming thunderstorms closing in on the island, and therefore be warned and prepared for the most violent storms. The 100-foot-long natural arch known as the Natural Bridge, which was 25 feet above sea level, had existed for thousands of years. The waves which carved the structure from the limestone also destroyed the bridge in just one night in 2005. The spot still attracts thousands of visitors, as the island's northern coast contains smaller bridges and some spectacular scenery. The island of Cozumel lies off the east coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and is Mexico's third largest island. With its income derived entirely from the tourist industry, Cozumel is renowned for its scuba diving and snorkeling. In spite of being savagely struck by 2 Category 4 hurricanes in 2005, the island has been completely rebuilt and repaired, welcoming over 500,000 visitors per year. The Maya first settled the island by the early part of the first millennium, and much of the Mayan culture remains in the form of 4 historical districts. The most important Mayan site to survive is San Gervasio, a sanctuary of the fertility goddess Ixchel. In addition to being a sacred site at which it was obligatory to visit at least once in a Maya's lifetime, it was also a strategic area for politics and commerce. San Gervasio became the biggest and most important site in the island from about 1200 to 1530. And in the central square, the centuries-old structures were used as altars and shrines.